Okay, if you would like to send me real mail, you can. I have a P.O. Box 3355, Denellen, Florida 34432. I get all kinds of great notes from people, notes of encouragement, seeds for the garden, tips for the show, presents for the kids. Keep it kid-friendly, nothing edible because I'll think you're trying to kill me, and nothing creepy because my kids do open the packages on the way home. Thanks to everybody who supports over there. Also, okay, fermented cod liver oil, butter oil blend here for like over 10 years. Green Pasture is amazing. They have been such a wonderful addition to my show team for sponsors because they are part of the Wise Traditions Conference every year. So they brought me out to Wise Traditions to learn more about the Weston Price Foundation, all the doctors and scientists that came and spoke there along with the farmers, and they just have great products. So they've got a lot of stuff there, but the stuff we've been taking for over 10 years really helped me with my cavities was this, the fermented cod liver oil, concentrated butter oil blend. We do the gel. I like the cinnamon tingle flavor. You get 10% off if you use Allison at checkout, Allison with 1L, and it is greenpasture.org. Very excited to have Dr. Sarah Solinger here. She's here for the first time, but hopefully she'll come back and talk to us. She's got lots of interesting things to say. She is a naturopathic physician, and you also have a bunch of other claims to fame too. You have a PhD in natural medicine. So really in-depth nutritional content coming your way. But we're going to start with some breaking news that's out right now. The media is reporting that the federal health agencies have been told to halt all of their external communications. And then following this news, the National Institutes of Health is canceling their meetings, apparently, because they're having to cancel their public communications right now. Now, allegedly, this is going to end. This directive will end on February 1st. And there's talk out there that this is common for presidential transitions. And so maybe this isn't that big of a deal. I think the response I'm seeing from people really depends on whether you like or you dislike the federal health agencies and whether you trust or you don't trust the information that's coming out of them. If you're part of the mainstream news, there's definitely a little bit of like hysteria laced through these articles that we're never going to have science anymore. The science class is going away because the federal health agencies are having to shut up, even if this directive ends in a couple of weeks anyway. But if you're probably part of my audience, I'm assuming you're like, I don't really care. No love lost. I don't pay attention to these people anyway. I've totally disregarded everything that they've said, at least since COVID, maybe before then, because I feel like they misled us. So I'm just curious, you're somebody who looks at holistic health. I'm curious what you think of, like, when you see a study come out or you hear about a press release, for instance, it comes from the NIH or the CDC. What level of trust do you have? Are you going straight to figure out, okay, where did this come from? I don't trust it at all. Or you're like, I take it with a grain of salt. What's your relationship as a doctor to the information that comes out of these agencies?
Honestly, especially when it comes from the CDC, I'm going to want to see exactly where that study came from. If it's actually truly a real study, or if we're taking, thoughts and putting it out there as well, we suspect this, so therefore we're going to make these claims. So I want to see what type of research was done. I want to see who funded these studies, right? So when we're funding studies, the outcomes unfortunately drastically depend on who's funding it. And is this a study that is going to be beneficial generally, or is this something that where you can look at it and you can obviously tell that it is going to benefit one side or the other? I am on the side of there's no love lost when it comes to the NIH or the CDC for me. I don't feel that they give accurate information or they give half truths. So for me personally, there's no love lost there.
Okay, this article, which comes from NPR, starts off by talking about how they obtained this memo and that the agencies have to halt external communications until they can be approved by a, quote, presidential appointee. However, they say, according to the memo, this is consistent with precedent. And, this federal official that they got to speak on anonymity is like, well, it's just an administration coming in, getting their ducks in a row. Is it temporary? That remains to be seen. There are a lot of discussions going on. So it's unclear, like when they talk about this HHS employee, they're talking out of fear for their job. Because that's why they wanted to be anonymous. It was unclear whether their team would receive permission to post information they planned to release this week. And then they go on to talk about, like, not just in this one, but for instance, in the NPR article that they have about the NIH canceling meetings, like, is this going to have a very drastic effect on like extremely important research. I mean, that I think is the undertone of these articles. It's like, okay, well, it may be a temporary halt in communication, but like they have, for instance, a cancer researcher here who's like, I have to do my research, and it's not like we can just reschedule these so fast. And so that's kind of, I think, what the tone the media is giving us here is that like public health, whether it's a temporary endangerment or a long-term endangerment, we're just maybe in danger right now. Like we need to be a little bit concerned that we're not going to hear from these people. These meetings are being canceled. This extremely important research is not happening. But as you know, one of the main reasons that I reached out to you is because I saw you posted an article about red meat. And this came from CNN. And they were citing a health study talking about reducing your red meat consumption and how it's going to have positive impacts on your heart, the environment, and even your cognitive health. And you have this long response to it, basically kind of calling it BS. Please do not believe this, you write. As a naturopathic doctor and clinical nutritionist, I have the education expertise to speak on these matters, and I can assure you that this advice is not beneficial. So the reason I bring this up in relation to the government agencies having to be quiet for now, for however long, or whether their important research is going to continue, or if we're going to all die because their important research is not happening right now. The media and the relationship to these public health agencies, these federal health agencies, is really fascinating because they do very little research. Like when they see a study that comes out like about this red meat consumption and cognitive health, there's not, maybe they don't have the ability, maybe they don't even know enough to do the research. Because some people like me, for instance, I wouldn't be able to read a research study the way you would, and get as much out of it. So I don't know, we could give them the benefit of the doubt. But what are your thoughts about that? Like when you see the media reporting about the public health agencies, you just express your opinion. You're like, no love lost. I distrust a lot that comes out of them. How do you think the media affects the public perception of these health agencies, with which you seem to disagree?
Right. So I think that there should be some accountability and some research done before they run off and make these claims or push these studies out, because you read the headline, which I understand a lot of that is going to be clickbait, right? So, they'll make a claim, you click on it, and then when you read in the article, it's slightly different than what they had originally said. But, the problem is, like you said, they're not doing any type of research. And this is something that you don't have to have a doctoral degree at to blow holes through research, that's not done properly. So with this article specifically, when I was reading it, it wasn't anything that was published that was factual as far as anything proven. It was based on observation. And when you read the study that they're utilizing to make these claims, it even says that they can't say that there is actually any proof or direct link that these conditions improve due to them cutting out animal sourced foods. So for me right there, it's lying to the public. You're making these claims and you're saying that, well, let's cut out this whole, source of nutrition that we know is good for us. We have so many like studies that will go in and show, your B12, your iron, cognitive function, your protein levels, general health improves when we have animal sourced foods. But then just a claim from CNN saying, well, it can cure all these issues or support cognitive function. But then the study that they're quoting themselves says that they can't even find an actual link to say that it is just an observation. However, it's being presented as a study that this is something that is good for the general health, good for the public health. And people who trust in the news, and back when reporting was truly reporting on facts, there is a whole demographic of people that will see that and run with it, and then could end up making themselves sicker in the long run or unhealthy in the long run because they don't have all of the information.
I did notice that too when I was reading the article. It was like it's just basically anecdotal. And they couldn't say it was causative. That was one thing I thought I picked up. I was like halfway through that. I was like, we don't know if it's really a cause, but it just seemed to be like some kind of correlation. Okay. Before we go any further, don't forget the Allison Wine Club is waiting for your membership. If you would like to get amazing wines that are sourced from extremely limited productions in very remote parts of the world, we're talking vineyards that are between 6,000 and 9,000 feet, families that have been in the winemaking business for 200 years, multiple generations. They use natural fermentation techniques. They don't add a bunch of the crap that's in grocery store wines. And they're just really dang good products. Plus, the company is awesome. They have never told me who I can talk to or what I can say. And I have loved having been a part of the Bonner Wine family. So go to AllisonWinePromo.com and sign up. You'll get 6 bottles of wine every 3 months. Again, wine that you really cannot get anywhere else. And if you're not a wine drinker, like say you're carnivore diet keto, you don't want to drink wine, you could always give it to your friends or your frenemies, whatever. Maybe Dr. Solinger was going to say something today that will change your mind. You feel really bad about canceling grandma on Facebook. She was right. Grandma only needs 1 glass of wine at this point to forgive you. So go get her some Allison Wine Promo. You'll have your 6 bottles every 3 months. You can piss off 6 people every 3 months, and you'll have a great bottle of wine to get them back in your good graces. AllisonWinePromo.com. And I always say too, Dr. Solinger, it is a free speech wine because the more you drink, the more freely you will speak. Okay, so let's go.
You're promoting health by increasing resveratrol, which is found in wines that don't have all those additives, right? So, I mean, you're really promoting circular and cardiovascular health.
I like how you think. Okay, let's move on to this article in more depth. Okay, so we were just talking about this. This is CNN. Keep your red meat to these limits to protect your brain health, experts say. And as you mentioned, well, first off, I guess I should tell people what they're saying here is that those who ate a quarter of a serving or more of processed red meats. Now, so they say processed, but then they're also talking about reducing your red meat consumption. And I'm assuming there's a difference between red meat and processed red meat, but let me just flag that for a second. They kind of use them interchangeably here. Like, I'm not really quite sure there. And then, as you said, the study methods are observational, meaning that the researchers can't say for sure that the processed red meats are causing the dementia, only that there's an association between the two. Okay, what I find so fascinating about this, whenever I see an article about health or food in the news that seems to promote a particular agenda, but maybe doesn't make a whole lot of sense from a scientific perspective, is that this aligns with the journalists' preconceived notions about health. Because let's put it this way, like when there were things that came up during COVID that went the opposite direction of like what you could clearly tell these journalists thought we should be doing. They were like combing through it, calling, well, but experts say this and experts say that's not true. And experts this, they always like to say experts say instead of like this expert says, it's like experts say. That's when you also know it, like it's probably going to be a little shady because they just say experts say, like what experts and who and how many, and they don't care. And because it's their experts, it aligns with their preconceived bias. And so I think that that's always interesting because I don't think they would just so easily spout out these talking points if they weren't already aligned with it. So it just seems like there's already this confirmation bias among journalists that this is the right way to eat, I guess. So what have you noticed as like, I don't know, say take the last 10 years, for instance, in the media, coverage about meat? Like, let's just talk about meats, red meat, white meat, whatever kind of meat. Do you feel like the media is pushing an anti-meat agenda?
Absolutely. And what's interesting about that is not only do I feel like they're pushing an agenda, they're using so many angles to push it. They're talking about, the global warming and how cows or, cow gas is causing us to have all of these issues. And, we're not talking about all of the issues that we're having with, doing all of these alternative energy sourcing and these windmill farms and things like that. All of a sudden, after, billions of years, now it's the cow's fault that we're having these climate issues. And then when that really didn't push through, now all of a sudden it changed to, well, eating beef, eating cows, or, chicken or any, meat sources is going to be bad for your health. It's going to spike your cholesterol. It's bad for your brain. But when we go back, and I'll touch on the cholesterol specifically here for a moment. When those studies first came out, if you actually look at the studies on cholesterol and high cholesterol levels being bad for you, when those studies were first published, it states in those studies, you can go in there and see that there is, again, it was observatory and they weren't able to actually show causation. And it states that we feel in the future we will be able to show causation. Well, we're in 2025 and that has still never been proven, scientifically proven, that having red meats is going to increase your cholesterol. Now, that's not to say that, if we have elevated cholesterol levels or something like that, eating a certain way can help improve them, but for that to be a cause. So as far as that, that in itself kind of makes me skeptical when they're talking about meats and nutrition. And there's an agenda behind it, is how it feels. We have so many studies that are proven, clinical studies where we're actually doing control groups and we're following up, and we're doing these for years, and it's showing opposite of what is being reported. So yes, I do feel like there is an agenda being pushed. I think that the fact that our news sources, you're going to see, CNN really pushing hard for plant-based, non-animal foods. But then if you go over to a different news outlet, such as Fox, it's going to be absolutely opposite of that. And you're going to hear like, oh no, ketovore, carnivore, keto diet is what you need, to stay healthy. And I feel like there's definitely a split in the information, and the people who are suffering from it is the public, because they're not going to know who to believe.